Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Layla and today we are doing a subscriber financial review. This one is a little bit different than the ones that you're used to. One, because they are based in the UK, and two, because they don't really have debt. But before we get into the email and my suggestions for this individual, I do have a couple of things to share. Number one would be my debt-free blueprint course that is now available for purchase. If you are someone who is fairly new to finances, you want to learn how to budget, you want to learn how to save, how to start paying down your debt, what you should prioritize, how you can boost your savings, all these different things, then I highly recommend this course for you. This is also a really good time to do it in the month of December because we're going into 2024 and this gives you the opportunity to start off strong for 2024 when it comes to your finances. On the other hand, I also offer one-on-one sessions, so you can work with me one-on-one and we can come up with a plan for you to pay down your debt, we can make your budget, come up with a plan for savings, setting goals for the new year, whatever the case may be. So I have a number of packages available if you are interested. Those are listed on my website, but definitely let me know if you have any questions. And the both of those are linked in my description box, of course. The other thing I want to say here is that I do really like for people to leave feedback for the people that I am reading these emails from. But if you do decide to leave a comment, please make sure that it is friendly and helpful. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the email. She says, so I'm currently a young mom with a 1-year-old. I'm 23, almost 24, and a graduate living in the UK. I'm currently still living at home with my mom, so I don't have too many bills, but I do pay some bills. Would y'all hate me if I read this whole email in an accent? Because I sure read this email with an accent. I can also see a little picture of who y'all are. Like typically when you receive an email from someone, if they have a photo, you can see it, you know? So I can like see her reading this to me in her British accent and I love it. I love how y'all talk. Like it's so interesting to me, like mum, and even you'll see differences with how we label certain things. Like in the US we say we get gas for our car, but y'all say petrol. Honestly, I don't know. I'm gonna look that up before I get there. Don't worry, I won't read this in an accent, but in my head, the first time I read it through, I sure did. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and you are about to see why. I am not currently in any serious debt, but I struggle with prioritizing my wants as I constantly change my mind, sometimes a few times a day, and it stresses me out. Things are very different in the UK compared to the US. I have always been a budgeter and have attached a copy of my budget. I currently have a total of just over £19,500 in... This is going to be in British pounds. Sorry, I should have said that. I'm going to keep it in British pounds just because that's how this, this is for this individual. To me, it is a little bit distracting. Like I'm definitely used to USD, so I'm able to read things much easier that way. But I just try to focus on the numbers. So for this video, I'm not going to do any sort of exchange rate. I'm just going to keep it as pounds and assume that. I currently have a total of just over £19,500 in 2 high-yield savings accounts, one being a lifetime ISA. This is where the government contributes 25% to your savings up to a total of £4,000. So if I save £4,000, they will contribute £1,000, making it a total of £5,000 each financial year, April through March. I have a few sinking funds which I contribute to every month. I did look this up because I thought I've never heard of that, first of all. And I thought this was really cool. So a lifetime ISA stands for individual savings account. And this is for you to buy your first home or save for later life. You must be 18 or over, but under 40 to open, I'm going to call it a LISA at this point. You can put up to £4,000 each year until you're 50, and you must make your first payment into your ISA before you're 40. The government will add a 25% bonus to your savings up to a maximum of £1,000 per year, as she said in her email. It says you can withdraw money from your LISA if you're buying your first home, age 60 or over, terminally ill with less than 12 months to live. So very, very interesting. And it says you can use your savings to help you buy your first home if all the following apply. The property costs £450,000 or less. You buy the property at least 12 months after you make your first payment into the LISA. You use a conveyancer or solicitor to act for you in the purchase. No clue. You're buying with a mortgage. With that third one, I'm assuming it's kind of like a real estate agent here. But yeah, this was really interesting. I have never heard of this, and that's definitely cool. That's a lot of money to receive each year, an additional 25% up to $1,000. And I wanted to read all of that because it is relevant to the rest of her email, which we can go ahead and get back to. I have a Capital One credit card with a balance of £287. Sorry, I'm not sure what the interest rate is, as I only got it to get credit when I was 19. I could pay it off, but I just keep it and pay it slowly. I also have an overdraft of £215 with zero interest rate until September of next year, and I plan to pay this off in the next 2 months. Now, for this video, I'm just going to ignore these debts. I'm going to assume I received this email almost 2 months ago. So I'm going to assume that she has completely paid these off, and we're really just going to talk about December moving forward. But I did want to call out a couple of things here. First, she mentioned that she does not know her interest rate, but she just carries the balance and pays slowly each month. I'm going to suggest you do not do that. Don't ever do that again, because you are just losing money in interest. That is not necessary. Even if the interest is just like 5% or 10%, I don't know what's normal in the UK. I don't suggest doing that in general, especially with such a small balance and a high saving. Like, you have a high amount in savings, but you only have, like $500 or 500 pounds or so in debt. Just go ahead and tackle that as soon as possible. I think at this point she has done that, but ideally you would not go into debt again, aside from your mortgage and maybe like a car if you needed to, but we'll talk about that. So yeah, going forward, you definitely want to make sure you do know what your interest rate is, so that if you do go into credit card debt, which hopefully you do not, but then you would be aware of what you're actually paying in interest. And then overall, just avoid credit card debt. If you do charge anything onto it, just pay it off immediately or within a few days, so that you don't carry a balance from statement to statement. Now, as for why I really need your advice, the £19,500, 10,000 plus in my Lisa, which I have maxed out for this financial year, so I can't put anything in until the 6th of April 2024, and £9,500 in another account. This is savings for my house deposit, as I plan to start the buying process by April/May of 2024. I need a total of about £20,000, but I also need to buy a car, as I sold mine in the beginning of September and really do need a new one soon. I'm estimating this will cost me a total of £6,500, including insurance and tax and any servicing I may need, as car prices have gone up so much in the last year. I am planning on getting a car in the next 2 to 3 weeks. As I said earlier, I received this email almost 2 months ago, so I'm going to assume she did go ahead and buy this car. I don't know if it was the $6,500, but we will say that that's how much it cost her, and that would leave her with about £13,000 that is now for her house down payment. Now this will leave me with about £13,000. I save about $1,000 per month, as I earn $32,500 a year as a data analyst and get $96 every 4 weeks for my daughter. My salary will increase by April, I believe by a couple £100, but I'm not certain how much, and I get a 5 to 10% bonus every August. I know I can increase my salary, but I currently get to work from home and have a good work-life balance, so I want to wait for at least another year when we put my daughter in nursery. I think that's fine. It does sound like you could definitely increase your income, but it makes sense for you to want to have more flexibility right now while you have a young child and you want to spend more time and be able to be more hands-on. That makes complete sense to me. Plus you get to work from home, and that is amazing. I work from home and I could probably never go back to not working from home, so completely understand there. She's also very, very young, so not worried about that at all. She has time to earn. My goals are to save up to £20,000 for my house deposit by April 2024, including the $1,000 from the government in my Lisa if I add $4,000 in April. Have at least £6,000 in emergency funds by the end of 2024. Eventually increase my pension from 3% to 6%, as I get double from my employer, being a total of 18%. Start investing by January 2024 at the latest. Also start investing for my daughter's future. Open a stocks and shares ISA. So I did look up this stock and shares ISA. That is very similar to a Roth IRA in the United States. I would love your help in deciding when to and how much to invest. I have been looking at Vanguard, but it's so overwhelming to me, and I would love help in guiding me on how to start. And then she did send me an email soon after her first email with just some more clarity on her living situation. She said, when I do start my house buying process, it may take on average about 3 to 5 months before I actually move in. And when I do move in, I am looking at paying roughly no more than £850 for my monthly mortgage payments. And this will be split between myself and my partner as we will be moving in together. But the house will be owned by just me. Now, she did send me a spreadsheet of all of her spending. I'm not even going to put a screenshot. I'm just going to show y'all here that this is like a whole spreadsheet of all of her spending since, I believe, April of this year. This includes her income. This includes her savings, her sinking funds. I did put this into my own spreadsheet just based off of the average. So the average spending in each category from April through basically now, well, through December. She had budgeted through December. So let's go ahead and look at that. All right, so for this financial situation, we're not going to be looking at her debts, like I said, because those should be paid off. I don't think she'll be going into further debt, hopefully not, aside from her mortgage. So we're just going to be looking at her spending and kind of the plan that she had laid out. On the left-hand side, you are looking at her savings. The first would be her LISA, which is the lifetime ISA. I'm assuming she's only going to use this money, whatever's in her LISA, that is only going to be for her house, at least as of right now. Until she buys the house. The other savings she mentioned is kind of like a high yield savings account, and that now would have $3,000. I would say this now has $4,000, honestly, because of the time that has passed. So she emailed me mid-October, said she was getting a car within 2 to 3 weeks from that date. So she probably now has her car and dropped 6,500 pounds on that, and that leaves her, like, she probably saved a little bit more this month in November. So I would think altogether she now has about 14,000 pounds. Her goal here is 20,000 pounds, and that means she's 6,000 away from that. As for her spending, she did send me that breakdown of everything, so I took the average, like I said. Starting with her income, she said that included 2,090 pounds from her job, and then she receives $96 as support because of her daughter. That's coming from the government, I believe. I did put her house sinking fund as 1,000 pounds. She said that's about what she saves each month. Obviously, once she purchases a home, that will change and it will probably just go to her emergency fund or toward investing. Nothing on here stands out to me as super problematic. She did mention that she lives with her mom, so she doesn't have to pay too many bills or all of her own bills, but she does pay some. So that's like gas and electric. She does have life insurance, water bill. Some of these I don't know what they include, African food. I don't know if this is literally what she had listed on there, so I don't know if it's like included as like part of her groceries, but she also has a separate line item for groceries, which was much lower. Offering, I'm assuming that's like donating. Couple of Apple charges on here, those are fine. Fun is fine. Petrol, which is not something we say here in the States, at least I've never heard anybody from the US say that, $39. E, this was a name. I think this might have been her daughter's name, so I just left it as E. That looks like it would be like child expenses. Miscellaneous was pretty low. And then her sinking funds were fairly high. So this was a number of sinking funds. I didn't want to break them down because it was a lot, like 10 different funds, and it really wouldn't make sense to include that here. I think that's fine that she's saving. Overall, this is putting her at a negative difference, but because I took the average of everything, that's definitely not accurate. So I'm sure she's fine. It seems like she is handling her finances overall really well. So I don't think there's any concern here. So the main focus for this video is going to be about her goals and the order of like how she should prioritize them. I did lay out, this is December, as you can see at the top, and then I did lay out what things will look like for January, February, March, and April, because that is basically going to look the same, and that's pretty easy to look at. Now, I would say these are off by 1,000 pounds, so this would be instead 15,000. Let me adjust these. Now, from my understanding, what she's going to be doing is saving 4,000 pounds, more than 4,000 pounds by April, so that she can put the full 4,000 pounds in her LISA come April, and then the government will match that. So easily she can do that. You can see across the bottom, in December, she'll have 15,000, 16,000, 17,000, 18,000, and then April, she'll put the 14,000 into that Lisa account, and then they'll put in 1,000, so she will reach 20,000 across all of her savings, if not more. I think that's fine. I think that's fine to prioritize that and put that first. My only concern there is that you would be going into this mortgage potentially without an emergency fund. So yes, it would be great that you have 20,000 pounds for your mortgage. I'm assuming that's going to be as your down payment, and that is perfect. But then you said you wanted to have an emergency fund of 6,000 pounds by the end of 2024, which I think is definitely achievable. But my concern is that you are going into a home without an emergency fund. So honestly, I would prefer for you to prioritize 6,000 in an emergency fund before saving the 20K for a home. Like maybe you can delay the purchase of your home by a few months so that you can make that possible. But I guess it really just depends on how things actually play out. She did mention that if she applies for this home in April, starts the home buying process in April, then it will probably take her 3 to 5 months to actually move into a home. And I'm definitely confident that she could probably save up 6,000 pounds within that 3 to 5 month range. But it's also a possibility that you apply for a home in April, look for homes in April, and start the buying process immediately. You know, like things could happen really quickly. That's definitely just an unknown and maybe unrealistic, but still possible. I'm not exactly clear on the timeline, like why it needs to be in April or anything like that. So if there's a possibility of it being delayed, maybe you can apply for a home in August or September, something like that, then I suggest doing that so you can have an emergency fund before committing to a mortgage. I did put her numbers on here when she actually had a home. So she mentioned that her mortgage would be no more than 850 pounds, but then she would be splitting it with her partner because they would be moving in with her. And I put this at 600 just to be more conservative, you know, in case that you end up paying more than your partner does or whatever the case may be, if there's insurance tacked on there or some other fees that I don't know what is out there in the UK. So I think that would make sense to be at around 600 pounds. That does leave her with a little bit of a cushion in her budget. I did highlight groceries because that will probably, I don't know if that will be higher, like maybe her groceries are lower while she lives with her mom because her mom is paying for some groceries. But then I don't know about the African food, if that is like going out to eat or groceries as well. Some other things will probably adjust as well. So for example, gas and electric could be more, could be less, just depending on if she's going into a smaller home compared to where she lives currently. Same with her water bill. I don't know if there's any sort of other tax that is applicable when you move into your home in the UK. But yeah, this is obviously not 100%, just making a lot of assumptions here. But I think this is a pretty good picture of what things will look like when she actually buys a home. This also doesn't include a pay raise. She mentioned that she will get a pay raise in April, so we can bump this up a few percentage points, you know. This still includes all of her sinking funds. I would assume she could probably slow down on some of these, but even if she left them in, that is fine. And she has a pretty high savings rate compared to her income and expenses, so I think that looks pretty good. She can definitely save up her 20,000 pounds for the house down payment. She can definitely get to the 6,000 emergency fund by the end of 2024. Even if she doesn't put that before the house down payment, which I do suggest, but even if she doesn't do that, she should be able to do it after committing to the mortgage. As far as investing goes, I would say that she can probably increase what she puts to her pension right now. Now, let me start by saying that I am not familiar with investing in the UK by any means, obviously. So definitely take all of this with a grain of salt, but it sounds like you have a pretty good plan with your employer. She said that whatever she puts in, the employer doubles. So if she's putting in 6%, they are putting in 12% to her pension. So she said currently she's doing 3%, and then her goal is to increase that to 6%, and then it will be a total of 18%. I think looking at all things, you could probably start that right now. Maybe, I don't know if you can do like just a 1% increase, a 2% increase, try just a little by little and see how that feels with your budget. That sounds like a really good deal to me. I don't know if there's a limit to it, but if they're putting that much, I would definitely take advantage of that as soon as possible to an amount that you feel comfortable with. Now, when it comes to the stocks and shares ISA, that is different. Like I said, this is kind of like a Roth IRA for us in the US. I don't think this is something that you need to rush to start and open January 2024. I say start with that pension, and then once you take out your mortgage, you get settled into your home, maybe then is when you can consider that, because it sounds like you just have a lot going on and it's just easier to simplify things. I mean, if you want to open that, by all means, go for it. She did mention that she finds it overwhelming. She said she's looking at Vanguard, but it's so overwhelming to her. Vanguard is what I use, but obviously in the United States, so it's going to look very different. Eventually, I'll make a video on how to like open an account with Vanguard as much as I can. There's only so much I can walk y'all through because I already have an account with Vanguard, so I can't take you through the whole process because they won't let me make another account, you know? But anyways, when it comes to Vanguard, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but they have improved significantly. Their user experience was not very friendly a few years ago, but I feel like it has improved. They also have a lot of step-by-step guides, and definitely here in the US, but I would think that for you to open your stocks and shares ISA, they have instructions on how to open that. I will try to find it and link it in the description box, but they should have some sort of guidance for you to, you know, help you walk through it step by step on how to open it. If you can't find that on Vanguard, or if I can't find that, there are definitely YouTube videos out there on how to open a Vanguard account in the UK specifically and how to start funding that. Because yeah, I have no clue what y'all have available, like what stocks you can invest into, index funds, that sort of thing. That's all the knowledge I have is on the US stock market. But overall, I think as of right now, you are okay with that employer plan. That sounds like a really solid plan. And then maybe in a few months, you can open up that stocks and shares ISA. She mentioned also wanting to start investing for her daughter's future, which is completely understandable. I don't know if that's just for savings in general or for her education, but I'm sure the UK has options similar to like what we have here. If it were me, I would just do like at this point, a high yield savings account type of situation for like if I were to have a child. I obviously don't, but that's probably what I would do. I don't really love things that are reserved specifically for education, just because what if your child doesn't end up going to college? I know that there's other options that they can do with that money, but I would just prefer to have it somewhere that is more accessible, just in case they don't want to use it on education. The other thing I want to say here is that you should definitely focus on yourself first. You know, I think a lot of people, I think it is important to think about your children's future and such, but I've also seen horror stories of where, this is really mostly in the United States, you know, but where parents take out student loans or they really focus on their children's education before their own retirement or before their own savings. And then they end up at the age of 60 with like $50,000 of student loan debt that was taken out for their children. And then they don't have anything in retirement and they are just, they're screwed, you know, like it's going to be really hard to get out of that financial situation. And I just don't think that that's the best way to go about doing things. I think it would be amazing if you're a parent and you are able to pay for your children's education and pay for them to go through college or whatever it is that they want to go down, then that's incredible. But I know that that's not the norm for a lot of people, and that is okay. The best thing that you can do, in my opinion, for your children is to be an example. So save your money, spend wisely, prioritize where you want to spend your money, teach them habits, healthy habits when it comes to finances, and talk about money, because for so many of us, we grew up without talking about money, or we only learned very simple things that overall were not truly helpful and didn't get us very far when it comes to finances. And yeah, so be an example, but also teach them about finances. Whatever you can learn about money, eventually you can pass that on to your children. And that is so valuable. Even if you don't have, here's $20,000 for 20,000 pounds for you to have for your college education, at least now they can go into college without taking on debt. Maybe they have a part-time job while they're in high school or whatever it is in the UK, and they actually realize they need to save that money so that they can fund their education or fund their dreams or start a Roth IRA or an ISA type of thing, because I know that that would have changed things really dramatically for myself and for many of my peers. Obviously, you're going to be supporting your child to some extent. You have to raise them and feed them and get them through to adulthood, but it's okay if you don't have like a huge amount invested and saved for them when they do become an adult. Overall, I think this young lady is doing a great job and you should keep it up. You're going to have a home soon, and that is incredible. That's a very young age to take out a mortgage and buy a home. So congratulations on that. I think you should take things one step at a time. Once you have that house under your belt, once you have your emergency fund, continue to add to that. I think you'll want to have a little bit more of an emergency fund just because you are going to have a home and you also have a child. But then after that, maybe you can really focus on investing. And in a couple of years or in a few years, you can probably be earning much more from your full-time job. Once the child is in daycare or in school, then you can have a higher income job. And then with that job, you may have a really solid employer plan. So you're investing that way, and then you can start investing on your own as well. You are very young and in a good financial situation already, so you have lots of opportunities ahead of you and lots of time ahead of you. And the good thing is you're already paying attention to it at 23 years old, so you are good. Thank you so much to this individual for sharing all of this information. I really hope that was helpful. For those of y'all watching, comment down below, especially if you're in the UK, comment down below if you have any advice or further feedback for this person. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one.